Hey, Energy Physio. Gonna go over today the ultimate guide to sports medicine. This was produced by a larger organization, which is irrelevant. The information in this article is widespread across the medical industry, across the rehab community, and a lot of what is said in this article is considered kind of conventional wisdom and the kind of most baseline truth about sports medicine and how that's perceived from an injury standpoint. And so we're going to go through this article and kind of break down some of the common flaws that we see in rehab when considering sports medicine injuries and return to sport. So this isn't about who produced this. It's not about any of the doctors who have quotes or anything, and I've gone through the whole article and blocked it out. So you really can't tell where it comes from unless you've seen this article before, and you won't be able to know where it's from. And if you have, don't do anything with that, because it's not about where it came from or who said it. It's about the information that's in it, and that this is kind of the industry standard, and how, as we move through here, we're going to see within that industry standard, there's a lot of, I think, misinformation and definitely a lot of missing information and some gaps to fill. And so we're going to move through this article, which is laid out in a very systematic way to help people kind of navigate their way through a sports medicine injury, which I think is a really great thing to have, but we've got to view this through the lens of a consumer who may or may not know too much about how to deal with an injury. And this being public information and being pushed to the public to provide information, I think there's just a lot of gaps to fill in the way that we're going to return to sport that aren't addressed. And I think when that reaches the eyes of maybe a less savvy consumer about how to manage injury, then it can be a little bit of a detriment. And so we're going to just kind of go through this article page by page, kind of see what's there, what's good, what's bad, what's missing, and start to kind of plug in some information where there is some missing information. But the article starts in a really great way, and it says you don't have to let pain keep you from doing what you love. And that couldn't be more true. So many people are living with pain, and they kind of have this mindset and mentality that, well, because I'm active, I have to have pain, or because I'm aging, I have to have pain. And that's simply not true. Pain is a solvable problem, and we can always trace pain back that's not trauma related. We can always trace that back to movement. A simple way to put that is, if you have pain when you move, you have a problem with the way you're moving. And movement is a solvable problem. And so if you have pain and you've just been dealing with it and putting up with it, you need to find somebody who can help you address not only your pain, but the root cause of why you have it, because you don't have to. So I would encourage you to find somebody who can help you do that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go. But then it also states here like what this article is setting out to do. And here it is. Better understand what your pain means, figure out what might be causing it, and then learn how you can prevent injury. And so I think it's fair if it says this is what this article is going to do, to see, does it actually do that? And as we move through this article, we're going to find that maybe it doesn't do those things in the way that it probably should. And then over here, it's got 10 pretty common sports med injuries. I'll just read them off to you. Achilles tendonitis, ACL tear, ankle sprain, dislocated shoulder, groin pull, hamstring strain, MCL tear, patellofemoral syndrome, shin splints, and tennis elbow. These are all pretty common. And so this is about the extent that they go to better understand what your pain means. And all they've done is list your symptoms associated with whatever the problem is. And basically they're saying that's what your pain means. So they're saying if you have pain and stiffness along the Achilles tendon in the morning, pain along the tendon or back of the heel that worsens with activity, severe pain the day after exercising, thickening of the tendon, bone spurs, swelling that is present all the time and gets worse with activity, they're saying what that pain means is Achilles tendonitis. And then the only extent they go is to figure out what might be causing it is to say that that pain is associated with Achilles tendonitis, but they never actually dive into what the actual cause of that problem was. It never talks about movement inefficiencies. It never talks about training protocols. Did you have a volume spike? Did you have a load spike? Did you have an intensity spike that maybe was the onset of this? Your tissue tolerance wasn't quite there and you did a little more beyond your capacity, and that's what irritated the tendon. But this page is really the entirety of how they better understand what your pain means and figure out what might be causing it. It actually never asks that second and third why as to, okay, you have these symptoms, and so typically that pain means Achilles tendonitis, but why do you have Achilles tendonitis? Why is your tendon inflamed? Why is it swollen? Why is it painful? And they never ask those kind of next level questions to really understand the actual why you have that pain. It's simply symptoms. This is what those symptoms mean. So this is what your pain means, and this is what is causing it. And that's as far as it really goes. And then we're going to talk about preventing injury a little later, but just at the very beginning up here, they talk about some things that they're really not helpful and sometimes not even true, but some of them they hit the nail right on the head. So one, they talk about many sports injuries are caused by improper warm-ups or cool-downs. And if we're going to be honest, what improper means is that you're not doing it. And that is 100% true. People don't have good warm-ups, they don't have good cool-downs. If they're doing them, they're probably not good enough, so improper, I think, is a fair word. But in reality, a lot of people simply aren't warming up or cooling down, and we could solve a lot of problems just by fixing that small segment right there. The other one they talk about is many sports injuries are caused by overuse of something. And I really disagree with this term overuse, because the body is designed to take just millions of revolutions and cycles of movement, and we can see that. We can see human beings doing incredible feats with ultramarathons, marathons, triathlons, these big events that literally just use and abuse the body, but they come out unscathed. So it's hard to say overuse injury and keep that in perspective of like the amount of stress the body can actually handle. And I think a better term is a misuse of the body rather than an overuse. Because like we talked about already, you can have training volume spikes that are way beyond your capacity, or you take a load that's beyond your capacity, you increase your intensity of a workout beyond your capacity. And so misusing and mismanaging our training protocols can lead to injury, but simply overusing our body is not really a thing, because we can see that the body is capable of doing a lot. Some other things they talk about are unexpected movement or twist, and incorrectly landing after a jump. And I would say if you are choosing to create your movement, then you should not have any unexpected movement. You should be in full control of what you're doing. So I'm not totally sure what that means, but incorrectly landing after a jump, definitely we see that happening. Oftentimes ends up in an ACL tear, but they fail to address what is correct. And so there's definitely a gap to fill there, is saying doing something incorrectly causes a problem, but then failing to address what is actually correct leaves a lot to be desired there. And then the last one, a sudden collision or blow or a fall. This is trauma. It's a risk we take playing sport and being active, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just simply the way it is. But those are all ways that people get injured. So we're going to jump into another video, and we're going to follow this thing out over several videos. And they've created a workflow for once you're injured, how you navigate your way through that back to sport. And this is really where we're going to dive in and see some flaws in the current model of thinking about how to return to sport. And so that's what you see exploded on the board here. We'll jump into that in the next video. See you later.